Hi there. My name is Chris Hunter, and I'm with the Four Corners Clean Energy Alliance. With me today is Denis Payre of Nature and People First. And Nature and People First has a very interesting project we're going to learn some more about on the Navajo Nation involving a new clean energy technology, or maybe not so new, clean energy technology known as pumped storage. Denis, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
I'd like for you to characterize a little bit about your project and company for us, if you would, please.
Yes, Chris, we are developers of pump storage projects, both in the US and in Europe. We are, in fact, indeed reinventing this technology, which has been around for about 100 years, was invented 100 years ago by a German engineer in the Alps. It consists in storing energy using water and elevation change. You have typically two reservoirs with elevation change between the two. And when energy is cheap, water is being pumped from the lower reservoir to the upper reservoir. And when you need energy at peak time, typically at the end of the day, for example, you release the water that goes from the upper reservoir to the lower reservoir and triggers a turbine, and you collect back about 80% of the energy that has been stored. It's like a giant water battery. It's a very simple way to store energy. It's been deployed massively in the 70s and the 80s, in the Alps, in the Rockies in the US as well. And a number of people like us are reinventing this, relaunching this technology today to help integrate renewable energies, intermediate renewable energies like solar and wind. And so
So
we do
it's
this
kind of like
in France and in the US. Sorry, go ahead.
So it's kind of like a hydroelectric dam, except the water goes uphill and downhill. Is that correct?
Exactly. The water, it's actually a closed loop system. So the water keeps going up and down all the time. In fact, at least once a day, sometimes several times a day. And it helps stabilize the grid, indeed, doing that.
And tell us about Nature and People First as a company.
So Nature and People First as a company is working on developing such projects. In France, initially, we started working on projects in islands because islands like Guadeloupe and Martinique in the Caribbean are remote areas where you have no other way to store energy and to get energy than storing energy this way. And so we have several projects going on at the moment over there. And we also started looking into what is possible in the US. And in the US, we realized that the biggest needs were in the Rockies, in Arizona in particular, because of massive solar and wind projects which are being deployed over there, creating a lot of instability for the grid. And utilities are currently looking for such projects to help stabilize the grid, particularly for what they call long hour storage. I mean, they need projects like that to have energy for like 10 to 12 hours per day. Initially, they started working with batteries, but batteries are not necessarily sufficient. They can help store energy for like 4, 5, 6 hours, but beyond 6 hours, it's extremely expensive. And batteries are also creating a number of issues, dependencies on countries with a monopoly on raw materials like lithium or cobalt, dependencies on China, toxic waste that you have to deal with. So utilities are currently looking into also pump storage projects to diversify away from batteries and have solutions for long hour storage. And so
Or
there's
is
a
pump
big
storage
need for
cheaper
this
than
right now.
batteries? Is pump storage
Pump
cheaper than
storage,
batteries?
yes, pump storage for long hour storage is clearly cheaper than batteries, definitely, yes.
So electric customers would benefit in savings from the battery, like what you're talking about, compared to maybe a lithium ion battery?
Clearly, rate payers will save money typically with long hour storage projects like the ones we're working on. Absolutely. Plus, local people will have a job as well. I mean, batteries are often manufactured overseas. I mean, particularly in China. I mean, China controls 80% of the lithium-ion battery market. In the case of a pump storage project, it's going to give job to local people and Navajo people in this case. We're talking about 1,000 jobs for 3 years during the construction period, and about 100 permanent jobs afterwards, both direct and indirect jobs for a number of years, for about 100 years.
Would those jobs, in your opinion, be higher than local average wages?
There will probably be because they require qualifications, and so in fact we'll train people to be capable of providing that type of service, particularly these maintenance jobs afterwards. The construction jobs initially will also require some skills. The good news is that the Navajo Nation has skills in this area. As you know, there used to be a coal mine on Black Mesa. Peabody Coal Mining Company used to exploit this mine. A number of people have been made redundant, but the skills are still there. And so we can definitely find local skills to build the project. People have the experience at earth moving. There are even local companies like Entech, for example, who are used to moving earth. And so we can even find Navajo companies to help us build this project in the Navajo Nation.
So it sounds like your objective is to be as Navajo-centric as possible in thinking about this project?
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, it's one of my motivations as well. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. I started several companies in my career, software company earlier on, then a logistic company, which I sold to UPS. And I really wanted to leverage my experience to help fight climate change, but also help create jobs and prosperity in areas where it's lacking. And clearly, the Navajo Nation today is lacking prosperity. And so a project like that can essentially serve two goals. I mean, help fight climate change, but also help create jobs in the Navajo Nation.
What's the source of energy to run the big pump to get the water at the bottom of the hill up to the top of the hill?
The source of energy will be primarily coming from solar projects. There are several massive solar projects being deployed in the Southwest at the moment. Typically you end up having excess energy during the day, especially at midday. And obviously the sun goes away at night, and around between 6 and 10 p.m. typically you also have this peak demand where people go back home, turn on the light, use their kitchen, turn on their oven and so forth, their TV. And so at that point in time, you know, you don't have sun anymore most of the year, but you have a very significant consumption of energy. So this energy, which is going to be pumped during the day, is going to be released in the evening at peak time between 6 and 10 p.m. and then during the rest of the night, you know, for 10 to 12 hours.
So mostly
it's going to be
renewable energy would run the pump, is what you're saying.
It's going to be entirely renewable energy. Entirely renewable energy. I mean,
Okay.
in fact, it's going to help utilities have a full, a completely net zero grid. I mean, you can really think about it as a solar during the day and pump storage during the night when the sun goes away.
Opposition, Denis, is saying this is absolutely a gigantic project. Gigantic in terms of geographic footprint, gigantic in water consumption, will profoundly, fundamentally change the cultural and landscape makeup of Black Mesa. What would Nature and People First like to have listeners know?
Yeah, there's really a misunderstanding here which we need to deal with. We have filed preliminary permit applications with FERC for 3 projects on Black Mesa North, East, and South. And because we need to look into several key areas, we have filed applications with very wide areas. We need to look into geotech data. We need to look into biological data. We need to look into cultural data as well. And we need to take into account also the Navajo Nation's opinion as to where they want us to locate the project, and also where grazing right permittees want us to locate the project. And so for all these reasons, we had to cast a very wide area in order for engineers to have as many options as possible. But the actual projects are much, much smaller. I mean, if you look at the footprint of the East applicant, Black Mesa East application in the Chichinbito area, the actual application talks about a lower reservoir with a surface area of 2,800 acres. The actual footprint, surface area of the project we're working on is going to be about 200 acres. So we're talking about less than 10% of the surface area we have filed in the application. In terms of the water, it's exactly the same. I mean, the water will come from the sea aquifer. The sea aquifer is a wide body of water that covers 27,000 square miles, extends way beyond the borders of the Navajo Nation. So it actually does not belong only to the Navajo Nation. has a capacity of 400 million acre feet, an annual recharge of 290,000 acre feet. Today it's being used primarily by people off reservation, by communities who are pumping this water for needs outside of the reservation. Mostly communities located along the I-40 corridor between St. John's and Winslow, primarily for industrial use. In fact, 3 highly CO2 emitting power plants are using water from the sea aquifer, and also for municipal demands for Flagstaff, Winslow, and Holbrook. Every year, these communities are pumping 140,000 acre feet. We're planning on pumping only 4,000 acre feet per year, 3,000 for our project and 1,000 for the local community. So we're talking about a much, much smaller quantity of water. In fact, it's going to represent 2.85% of the annual pumping and 1.38% of the annual recharge. So we're talking about a marginal quantity of water. And here again, we need to communicate on this. We need to be very clear. The project is very reasonable, does not cover a very large area, and does not deal with a very large quantity of water.
So a couple of things that I heard about that I think our listeners will be interested in. One is, you said you filed 3 applications with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which is a United States organization that looks at energy projects. But ultimately, you're only building 1 project, not 3. Is that true?
Well, we're going to build the first project in the eastern part of Black Mesa, but we intend to build another 2 projects. But the other 2 projects will be also very small, will not be greater than the first one we want to build in the Black Mesa East area, in the Chichimbito area. And so the 3 projects potentially will be also very, very reasonable in total. But we want to start.
So the 4,000 acre feet, is that for 1 project or for 3?
That's for 1 project. So ultimately, it's going to be 3 times that, but it's still a very small quantity. I mean, if you look at the sum, if you look at the 12,000 acre feet of water, that's 8.55% of the annual pumping and 4.14% of the annual recharge. 4.14% of the annual recharge for the 3 projects. And what we think also is that by enabling the nation to access this water, we're going to help them build water rights. I mean, I'm sure you remember and you know that recently there was a decision by the Supreme Court to prevent the Navajo Nation from having access to the Colorado River, to the water from the Colorado River. We believe that using water will actually lead to water rights. We think that because the Navajo Nation has not been using its rights before and enforcing its rights before, particularly rights to water from the Colorado River, it's not been able to build water rights. If the nation accesses water from the sea aquifer, it will enable the nation to build water rights in the future.
So one of the things that is obviously important to people that live in and around Black Mesa is the access to clean, potable water. You had mentioned that of the 4,000 acre feet for the East project, 1,000 would be dedicated to community purposes. Are you anticipating, in addition to getting the water to the pump storage project, building a water treatment facility plant and having water available for citizens?
Yes, definitely. We will need anyway to treat the water because the EPA, as you know, is very demanding and will not let us use water which is not clean anyway, even for the pump storage project. So we'll have to clean this water. And so this clean water will indeed be made available to the 2 local communities, absolutely.
So this could be a way to avoid having to haul water quite as far as what people are doing today?
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to help grazing, it's going to help agriculture. There could be industrial applications as well, recreational applications as well. I mean, everything is possible. And the nation has to decide, and the chapters have to decide what they want to do with this water. But we're talking about significant quantities of water, 1,000 acre feet per year for each project. It's a lot of water indeed, much more than what people can even think about today.
And that water would be for the beneficial use of more than just the chapter that it has the project in it, wouldn't it?
It's really up to the nation to decide. I mean, it's obviously going to be made available to the chapter, but the nation will have to decide whether it's just for the chapter or for a wider community. We believe that they will probably decide to share this water with other chapters. In fact, the Chichimbito chapter has already volunteered to talk to other chapters and to share this water with other chapters.
And the water you mentioned coming from the sea aquifer, would you anticipate drilling a series of wells on top of Black Mesa?
Yeah, in fact, we're gonna drill wells at the bottom
Oh,
to
at the
be as
bottom,
close as
okay.
possible. You know, instead of drilling from the top, we're gonna save at least 2,000 feet of drilling. But we're gonna drill from the bottom, from the Chichimbito area. We'll have to drill a few wells because of just productivity issues with a standard well. So we'll probably have to drill between 6 and 7 wells in total to have the quantity of water that we need.
So that water currently is in an aquifer on the Navajo Nation proper. Who today has claim to that water?
So again, today, this water is being used by communities which are mostly located off reservation in the Flagstaff, Winslow, Holbrook area. And in fact, only 1,200 acre feet of this water is being pumped by communities located on the Navajo Nation. So about only 1% of the total quantity of water which is being pumped every year is pumped on the Navajo Nation. So only a very marginal quantity. So we'll essentially help the nation have access to a greater quantity of this aquifer, close to 10% of the annual pumping.
Which stages, which, as you mentioned, Dennis, stages potentially for securitizing water rights for perpetuity for the citizens of the Navajo Nation.
Exactly. Today, this aquifer is completely underused by the Navajo Nation and is extensively used by communities located outside the nation. And we think it's a shame. We think the nation should definitely use this water to build rights in the future, indeed.
How do people learn more about your project, Dennis?
They can access our website, www.natureandpeoplefirst.com. They can also talk to the Chichimbito chapter, who's championing this project in the nation. And we're also planning a radio commercial campaign, broadcasting campaign, to talk about the project as well over the next several weeks so that people hear about it and get to learn about it. We are ourselves visiting the nation regularly. In fact, we're traveling there next week. We're going to visit a few chapters on the Mesa to keep on educating people on what the project is all about and explain exactly what the exact size is going to be, what the benefits are going to be. And so that's indeed what we're doing to help people understand what we're going to do.
If I live on Black Mesa and run into, it's a small town kind of up there, opponents to the project who tell me this, that, and the other about the project, and I'm wanting to kind of think through, well, maybe that's true and maybe that's not. Is there a way to get in touch with the company and hear from the company's point of view about what you're seeing?
Yeah, people can go to our website and they're going to find my email and my phone number, and they can call me, and I'll be very happy to talk to them.
And you're the president of the company, right?
I'm the president of the company, and I'm very available to talk to them.